Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett. I think she's pretty quiet this morning. Uh, but first of all, have to just acknowledge how much I love this so much. It's so cool. It's like I think this is my favorite one right here. This guy. Um, but this one's neat too, and then this one's neat. I like that one too, and I don't know. It's just really neat. That one is really cool. Um, But anyway, we've been working on unit tests for a good week now, a whole week of nothing but working on unit tests, and we're still not there. Has unit tests been fun? Yes, I love it. I've really, really had a good time. Have I learned a lot? Yes, no question about it. Does it make sense in a professional environment to require 100% unit test coverage? Probably not. Would the unless probably not. Probably not. Um, unless you like if you could build a culture around unit testing, that would be ideal. But I don't know. I just don't know. Would you just end up with a ton of unit tests? I mean, is that like I don't know. But anyways, instead of product, would you just end up with like tons and tons of great tests and stuff like that? I like there was a credit card commercial that came out a long time ago where they were talking about like, oh, you spend money and then you get credits and then you exchange your credits for points and then you exchange your points for miles and then you exchange your miles for whatever. And it's kind of like that. And I feel like a lot of times in an agile environment, you get a lot of that where it's just like, look at our velocity, but you're not actually producing anything. Um, so I don't know. It's still mysterious to me on whether these sorts of things work. Now I do understand now. Yeah, Rhett. I do understand now, like um, why they want TDD, why a lot of people like evangelize for TDD, and that's because like in this example, I literally changed the function that we're calling. One of the functions that we're calling to return reset hash to return a promise um, instead of not returning anything, and that is not a like if that function. I fortunately I was never using this function anywhere. But if this function had been being used already, that probably wouldn't be an option. Just change the way it works because you're likely going to break a bunch of stuff just to get the unit test working. So you wouldn't have to worry about that. Like if you built everything from here on out, I know I'm going to end up using this reset hash. From here on out, since it's not being used now, I will use it in such a way that it works. Because basically, promise. So this returns a promise now, and a promise won't execute until it gets something tries to resolve it. That's one of the sort of the reasons to have promises is so that you can kind of set them up, and then if you ever need it, it goes ahead and does it, and then if you and it's a great way to cache things. Um, so I would the way I had it before with a void where it just did a void, it would have just executed. I mean, it would have just executed, but I don't think it would just execute unless you actually resolve the promise. Um, so if something had been using it, it wouldn't have used. So the fact that I kind of I wrote this and then I wasn't using it anywhere, and then I wrote the test for it before I actually used it anywhere is kind of like TDD, not really exactly like TDD, but from here on out, it is unit testable, and then I can do it. I can use it. So, anyways, the jury should you write TDD on a should you write unit tests and try to get 100% coverage on a passion project that's just something that you do just for your learning and just to sort of keep yourself stimulated and do something fun and sort of way like when I like yesterday I did a lot of coding, but it was under a lot of stress. I was very stressed out while I was doing it. And so today I'll do but in the morning I was doing coding and I wasn't stressed. And so coding in my brain is still when it does the sort of meta analysis of coding, it's still like something I look forward to. I know a lot of people, especially my last job, not in this job, but my last job that I had, there were people that literally hated coding. They hated it. They hated every aspect of coding. They don't want to talk about coding. They don't want anything to do with coding. They hated it. And it was because that was a very stressful job. And what was really stressful about it, more than anything, was like, let's say you make a change. It was an Angular application. And whenever you'd make a change, what would happen is it would take it a whole minute to 90 seconds to compile so that you could see the results of your change. So when I'm coding and I'm making it, I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me try this. Okay, that didn't work. You couldn't really do that, experience that. You would have to wait for like 90 seconds, and you'd have to try to maintain that sort of train of thought over a 90-second gap. It was very, very difficult. And it was very, very stressful. And then not only that, but they had like dozen different communication methodologies, and then they and you had to have two computers. So that meant most people had three computers because they sort of had a personal computer up, they had their corporate computer up, and then they had their government computer up. And so then they had like literally a dozen different communication schemes that they were trying to pay attention to with these 90-second gaps. And so stuff was just constantly binging, and it was just a very, 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 very difficult situation. It paid really well, though. But anyways, I always kind of like, if you ever watch The Matrix, there's like a scene where Neo is fighting with this guy, and they're like, "Da-da-da-da-da-da," and then they stop and they go, shh, and then they like, and then they're, "Da-da-da-da-da-da," and then back to. That's what it felt like. You do all this fighting, right, Gretchen? Oh, Gretchen. Rhett, and Gretchen's the name of my German Shepherd. But that's what working there was like. But anyway, so now let me run my tests. I think I have npm start, itm test, run test. So I have gotten this visualization more covered, but it's not 100% covered. Oh, let me change this. Whoa. What in the world? Okay, so do you want to see? This is such a useless notification. So Node would like to, I guess, report something to someone about something. But, and now I threw up a web page. So pretty useless, right? This is absolutely useless. Like, I don't know what the consequences of this are. I can't tell if this is something that's designed here to help me, or if it's something that's designed to get someone off the hook, likely Microsoft. Who knows? This is Windows firewalls block some features of Node JavaScript runtime on all public and private networks. So I think I want Node.js to be able to access things on the network, because I would imagine it needs to find out if it has an update. It needs to find out if there are other modules that need updates. So I guess I don't know. I'm going to hit allow because I need this stuff to work. So anyways, there you go. That's one of the challenges of living and trying to be a technologist in our modern America. So we got this. We got everything passing. So that's, very good. Definitely better than not passing. And then the second part, and unfortunately you have to open. You can't just drag HTML because then it does this weird ass thing, or at least it was doing this weird ass thing where it was like blocked because of something. I don't know. It was like, about blank blocked. So I don't know what that's about. So here we go. And this is the one we care about. And I guess, now let's look in here. Look at that, man. This thing gets called 2,141 times. And before we started adding these sort of awaits and things in here, these promises, these were like 10 times, 12 times. And now they're through the roof in the number of calls. And that does sort of give you some indication to how, like, this camera variable gets populated 926 times. That's incredible. But I guess that's because it gets updated every single time that this guy gets updated, and then in times 16. And so if the whole thing took, and then it's 60 times a second. So I guess that makes sense. But anyway, so basically we would like for it to actually have some visualizations to iterate over as part of this visualization layout so that we can get this stuff to be unit tested. So first step would be to, well, let's see what the time is. It's 8:36. It's a beautiful day outside, by the way. Although my computer tells me it's 46 degrees outside. I just went outside. It was gorgeous. It was so much less cold today than it was a couple days ago when the computer was telling me it was like 60 degrees. So, that's interesting. But it's very, very dry. Not dry like desert dry. Dry for, our climate that we have here in the Atlanta area, which is, we get a ton of rain. So, but anyway, so we need visualizations. I still have 21 minutes. So how do you get a visualization is the next question. So basically it should, what do we want it to do? It should process. Visualization layout should process visualizations. I think that's a good name for this test right now. Should use visualization layout to process visual changes. Right, so basically we want to be able to change the visualization. And I think, all this is going to do is just kind of figure out where everything should lay out based on how many visualizations exist and how wide basically that's it. There's other processes that figure out like the width of the port and stuff like that. All it's going to do is place things on the screen. So that's its only job in life. There's another system, because this thing runs 60 times per second. We should only calculate the placement of things when there's a reason to calculate it. And I wanted to make sure that we have that we actually run this stuff when you resize, and I haven't built that in. So I just kind of mental reminder. So we're going to pass it in a function, and we're going to make it an arrow function because we want it to maintain context. We don't want to, if you have a function, if you have the keyword function, it will create a this variable, which will overwrite the existing this variable. So that's why we do this arrow function, which has not been around forever. And then basically we want to, I guess, call it, right? That's what we do. And let's like kind of focus on this one function, this one one test. We only want to run this one test. And we're going to hit save. Let's see what happens. So it's generating the build. Now, theoretically, we should lose ground because we're only running this one thing, and literally all it does is call this one function. So, like, I don't think it actually ran. Yeah, it didn't actually run. And so to get it to actually run, I need to come over here and hit reload. And I don't know. Oh, it's still, we got to wait for this stuff to sort of populate up here. So it says it ran one. Oh, there was no expectations. So, but let's hit this and reload. Yeah, see, so now it got ran, but it never even got into this. It's kind of weird how that took so long for it to populate. So let's just say expect true to be, I think, to be truthy. So we should have a pass now. So yeah, it is running on its own, and we got our one pass because all we said was expect true to be truthy. That should not have affected our this. So we do know that we're going to get an original hash. We can, I mean, if we ask for the hash right now, what we're going to get is an empty string. We know that. And see, like, I have a pretty solid grip on that now. I did not have a solid grip before we started unit testing. I don't know if I won't have that grip, in the future, but you know, I don't know. I don't know what to think about all that. I'll definitely probably discuss that. So this thing on the left reloaded itself and all that. So now, at this point, I think we should expect the hash to equal to blank. And we don't need this other expectation anymore. And it reloaded, and it's given us. So now it's like doing its thing the way we would expect it to do its thing. I don't think it was doing its thing before. All right, so now over here, we're gonna call this, and we're gonna get our hash that we expect to get when there's nothing. And in order to be able to do that, we need to make this an async. And again, I feel like, I've never really, like, I thought async await was going to be this huge thing. And it just has not played out that way. Like, literally nobody I work with ever. I haven't seen async await in a single line of code in a professional environment for like over a couple years. And I remember a point where like every time I turn around, you'd see async await. I remember when every tutorial I saw, they were using async await. Now it just seems to have gone. So now we're going to run this again. And we should see a little bit more coverage inside of here. So a little bit more green when we hit reload next time. It would be nice if this auto reloaded. Yeah, so now we've gotten in here, but we don't have any visualizations. So I think we need to do something. We have another one that will create a visualization, I think. So this is going to create that. How do we get a visualization though? So this is so this guy down here is looking for visualization service. Oh, we're an animation service. Okay, so we have to create visualizations in the visualization service. And do I do anything with the visualization service in here? Yeah, so this is what we're doing now. So we don't really do anything with the visualization. Do we even import the visualization service? We must, right? Because this uses it, but maybe not. So it looks like we need the visualization service in order to create a visualization. So we need to do something along these lines. And I think we're kind of slipping into integration testing instead of unit testing, because now we're bringing that, and probably most sort of unit test evangelists would be like, no, you need to mock visualization service because we don't really want to test. We're not trying to do integration test here. We're trying to do unit tests here. Um, so, but and you know what? They might be right, and I want to learn that. I want to learn that, and I want to learn it the hard way because that's the easiest way to learn things. So let visualization service, and we want a v, little v, colon. So this basically just declares what kind it is, and then I guess visualization service. Man, I really thought I had a better understanding of all this stuff, but I don't. And the only thing worse than like kind of not understanding what you're doing is not knowing that you don't understand what you're doing. So this moved from unknown unknown to a known unknown. Okay, so that shouldn't make any difference, but I just want to make sure nothing breaks, and I don't think anything will break. I guess I'm just looking for a little bit of affirmation here. And it shouldn't have changed anything in here. And we are looking at this down here. All right, so now I don't know if we can directly add things in the visualization service. I don't remember. So let's go down here and just start. Oh, okay, so here we actually do access the, okay, so I guess we don't need that because we can access the visualization service directly from here, which is probably a bad thing. You know, that the animation service can actually reset the hash of the visualization service is probably not ideal. So let's just do this. See if this still works. So, you know, I don't know if you understand what happened there, but basically what we had before is this service. We're calling the visualization service reset hash from this, which probably is not like a good idea. It's probably just not a good idea. And now what I've done is I've updated it to do this. Now at this point, you know, it's a good idea to kind of think through, like, so if this was a professional environment, it would probably make a lot of sense to go into that visualization service reset hash and make it private. and then just fix everything. And wouldn't take very long to fix everything. I want to see what the problem is. I want to see if I ever actually run into a problem because of someone setting the hash from someplace where they shouldn't have been able to set the hash. So I actually would like to get that burn mark so I could see what happens. 852. All right, so now we're resetting the hash, and I don't remember so let's go ahead and look at the visualization service. Oh, I guess we have to go here, go to definition. Okay, so now we're in the visualization service. So we can create a visualization, but we need a renderer ID and a viz component in order to create a visualization. So that means we're going to have to create a viz component and a renderer ID so that we can create one of these visualizations. But then once we have it, we can run. Oh, and it will reset the hash on its own. We won't even need to reset the hash. It'll update all the positions and it'll reset the hash. So, so really the next goal is to get a renderer ID. And to get a renderer ID, it probably actually needs, see, like if we look at this, if we highlight renderer ID, we'll see where we're using it, I thought. So we use it here to create a visualization, and then looks like that's all we ever use it for. We don't actually use it. But I would imagine it would be better if we created an actual renderer and then we created an actual viz component and then the rest of these things. So basically that's next. It's okay, we need to create a renderer. We need to create a viz component. I think I do that in our, I'm hitting Alt left to go back. Let's see, do we create a renderer? Yeah, see, here's where we create a new test and we get a base renderer and we get the ID. But I don't think we create a viz component anywhere. And that is going to be tricky because I don't know how to do that, how to create an actual component inside of this unit test, right? So let's see. I'm going to pull this over here. So we only have the, so it doesn't even render a actual. So this is something that is like completely new to me, right? Like I've done this before, but I did it just like through brute force, just getting it to work. But we actually need, and this is probably the first time I've ever really talked through this, but we actually need to create an actual component or mock a component and then give the unit test. Yeah, so I think what we actually want to do is we want to create one of these components inside of a visualization component inside of our spec. Something along these lines. And then give it that viz component. And that I've never done before. I mean, I've done it. I have done it before. But like when I just got that to work and then got my unit test to pass and been like, okay, I'm done. Move on. I never really dug into how it works. But so anyways, it is 8:56. I really need to get off of here. I do want to just sort of ramble on a bit about like, yeah, I mean, like literally, I'm starting to get the impression I'm going to spend a whole month doing unit tests, getting this next round of unit tests working. I don't know if that's a great use of time in a production environment where you're trying to build build and deliver an application. It's a great use of time for now because I am actually really looking forward to creating this unit inside of my other one, and then like getting access to it and just learn everything I'm going to learn along the way. But And I really like, it's kind of like I'm looking at the beginning of a trail through like a jungle, and I see the beginning of the trail, and I know that there's sort of a place at the end of the trail way down here, and I have no idea how many winds we're going to go through to get to the end of this trail. To understand that, I mean, it's going to be just a true exploration. And I just don't know what's between us and the end. And I do want to know what's between us and the end, because you know what? I may at some point in the future have to be able to do that professionally, and I'd rather figure that out now, in a fun, happy way than in a under stress sort of way. Anyways, yeah, it's 8:57. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.